Hello there, two-stroke turbo fans. Welcome back to the shop. Welcome back to Scouting for Squirrels, my shop dog Stella, and working on German cars with your favorite mechanic. My name's Mark. Welcome back to the shop. So you guys have seen me driving around in my old German DKW Dampfkraftwagen. This is a predecessor to the Audi Auto Union. That's the best way for me to explain the car to people. People don't understand what it is. DKW is just really foreign. It's a German car, West German made, and we work on old cars here. And I got to give you a little bit of a status report on the Barclay, which is not a German car. It's not getting worked on right now. Sorry. I have been devoting all my time to this German car, which is also a pretty cool car in its own right. It's just more modern. This is a 2013 Jetta sport wagon. I think it's called a sport wagon. It is a 6-speed turbo diesel car, and it's pretty complicated. I want to go through something. I've got a bunch of work, or we have big plans for this thing. Turbo, a larger intercooler, larger fuel system, and some basic maintenance like timing belt, brakes, shocks, that type of thing. And I thought I'd start with the timing belt because it came with its own 67-page manual, which you wouldn't think. I've done a lot of timing belts. I've been doing this mechanic gig for 44 years, something like that. And I have to say, I haven't done a timing belt quite like this. You need a bunch of special tools. And not only do you need a bunch of special tools, you got to have some experience on knowing how to use the tools. Once you get the fuel filter, the fuel pump, this is the lift pump, the coolant reservoir, the motor mount, everything out of the way so you can actually address the timing belt. Then you've got to get it into the service position, which means you got to make sure the battery's disconnected. You've got to rotate all the pulleys so that there are pins that lock them. And the reason you got to lock them is then you have to loosen up the bolts to loosen the pulleys to get the timing belt on so you don't loosen the shafts. I hope I'm being clear on that. So the reason you have the pins is to basically lock the shaft, like the camshaft or the shaft, onto which the injection pump is pumped from, and then you loosen the pulleys to get the belt on. It's quite a job. You also have to pin the tensioner, and the tensioner has to end up with that little tiny pointer right here in the middle of that slot. If you don't, you'll never get it on. And the crankshaft actually has to have a special tool right here, this guy, to lock it into place. I have marked everything, and I have replaced all 5 tensioners, including the water pump, which if you look closely, there's a black impeller, that's plastic. These are known to break off, shatter, and they cause a bunch of problems. The new one is metal, so that's a nice upgrade, as well as the belt itself. Wasn't terrible, but it's a pretty heavy duty belt, but it needed to be done. The car's got 100,000 miles on it. Just want you to know that I'm an experienced mechanic, and it's taken me twice, if not 3 times as long to do this timing belt because I want to do it right. And you kind of have to. You can't, there's no shortcuts. You got to do it right. Pay attention to the manual, read it all, do it right, do it once, and make sure it's done right. Now, I've done the belt. I've checked it, I've rotated the engine over 2 or 3 times and then rechecked it and retensioned the tensioner just like you're supposed to do. But it's a lot of work. You need this tool. You need all the tools that I have already mentioned. This tool pins or locks into the pulleys so you can rotate them when they're pinned and get them in the right position. The bolts all have to be in the center of the holes, otherwise it's going to run terrible. And there's also a procedure for once you get this all done on how to bleed the system. It's an incredibly complex job. I would not recommend that simple home mechanic to do, but it needs to be done. You can, if you have a couple, 3 days, a lift, and maybe some help and a lot of beer. That's what I got to offer you. This was a big job, much bigger than I thought. And cars are getting more and more complex. It's so far removed from my old DKW, my old German car. It's quite different, and That's just the way things are now, I guess. Thanks for watching, and thanks for listening to me kind of complain about how complex cars have gotten, but it's what we got to deal with these days.